Hello, this is Dwayne Denny, and you're watching In Studio. So, my name is Dwayne Denny today, and we're going to do a special version of In Studio. We're going to talk about how to do comedy. So, this is Introduction to Stand Up Comedy. About the instructor, about me as a human being, about me as an individual. I do stand up comedy, but initially I always wanted to do stand up comedy, but I never really understood how. And as a kid, I was always funny. I was always the funny guy in the room, the one with the quick joke, the one that made people laugh. And usually people who want to do stand up comedy are funny or narcissistic. And I am funny, so I tend to say stupid things, mean things, and I took a look at myself. I learned how to become a TV, a host, a TV host, a teacher. I taught Photoshop for a while, and I ran businesses for a while. So what I did was I took the concept of stand-up comedy and I broke it down, like when I created the syllabus for my Photoshop course, and I broke it down in the segments, and I broke it down piece by piece by piece, and I said, how do I do this? Okay, so basically what we're going to go over today is that process of what I broke it down and how I break down the syllabus to the Introduction to Stand-Up Comedy course. So the first rule of stand-up comedy is to know your audience. Know who you're speaking to. Know the room that you're in, because not everybody is going to be funny to everybody. You can't say things that you can say at a church, that you can say at a barbecue. So you got to know the room that you're in, and you know if you can do blue comedy, if you got to do family comedy, and where you're going to go with your material. So another thing is you want to be yourself, right? You want to be an exaggerated version of yourself on stage. A lot of things that people do is they try to emulate other comics, and when you try to copy somebody else, you get their material in your head. You're trying to think of too many different things like posture and body, and like you're trying to do it just like that performer, and you don't want to do that as a comedian. You want to be yourself. You want to know what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. So I'm going to go more into that as I continue. And I'm going to say, don't be afraid, speak clear, enunciate all your words, and, have fun. We're not up here to, work for a living. We're up here to make people laugh. Up here to make ourselves laugh. We're up here for the energy that the crowd gives us. So keep that in mind. There's many different kinds of jokes. Like for me personally, I like the quick, go in and get that cheap laugh, or if I do something stupid, like a lot of people can tell stories. If you're really good at telling a story, then that's the type of thing you should do. You got to watch all these comedians and say, what what am I good at? Like, why do people laugh? Do people laugh when I tell a joke that lasts like 20 minutes? Or do people laugh when I just say something quick? Why? Why are these people laughing? So the story joke is basically like it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And, the end is generally the funniest part, or you can lead around um, the joke. So if you're telling a story about cookies on the fridge and kids going to get them, and you got the how, and you got different parts of the story. Like, how did the kids get the cookies off the fridge because they're this big? You know, that's what kind of makes that story funny, and thinking like a kid. Like, how do you go from a 40-year-old person to a toddler mind? Um, Another thing is you can do is to tell the truth, right? Tell the everyday stories in your life, but then lie, exaggerate. You don't have to tell the truth. Like, if you're taking a bus and somebody says this to you, you can change the content of what they said to you. You know, there's different ways to go about it. So, oh, okay. So you in doing comedy, you make fun of things, right? The whole point to make things fun, make fun of things, is to have fun with everybody. So you want to make fun of things in your family. You want to make fun of sex. You want to make fun of relationship jokes between different kinds of human beings, like your coworkers, that person on the bus, etc. One of the most important things is to know your material. You have to continuously practice. The more you practice, the more you'll know it. What you do is you practice, and what I do in my practice is I'll write things down on a card, and I'll memorize what's on the card, and then I'll put the card away. Then I'll say it out loud 6 times, and then I'll go back to the card, make sure I said it out loud 6 times, and make adjustments. I take bullet points, and then I continuously practice. The best way to learn how to tell your joke is to say it out loud, and you gotta understand how to read it in your head, and then you gotta perform it out. So when you go over this notes in your mind, you just remember what's the funny part. Um, the best way to practice your comedy is to do it to a complete stranger. If you're in a cashier line and there's somebody behind you, they're stuck with you till the cashier finishes ringing up your groceries. So you got an audience whether they like it or not. So practice your material there, right? Tell your jokes to your family and your friends, but don't tell them this is for my stand-up, right? Just, hey, I'm going to say this, and then boom, hit them with it. Or don't say I'm going to do this at my stand-up, because then people tend to do is tell you how to be funny. You don't need to know how to be funny in comedy. You need to know how you are funny. Another part of doing comedy is setting the stage. Know where you are. Use the mic stand. Right? Use the mic. You got to make this feel like your living room. This is your house, right? You got the bench, right? Or the stool. Bench, that's funny. But you got a stool. Treat this room like your living room. Treat the audience like your TV, like your TV. They're here to entertain you because they're laughing at your jokes, right? So just reverse that in your mind. Make sure that the area is comfortable for you. When you come into a place, like a lot of places are bar rooms that people do open mics at, they'll have TVs on in the background. First thing you do is say, hey, I'm going to perform here. Can you shut that TV off? Most places will comply. If a place won't shut the TV off, then for me, myself, I'm not going to perform because it's uncomfortable with the TV going off in the background and people are there to watch. Excuse me. People are there to watch something else. So, one of the big things to do is open with a localized joke. I'm in Brockton, Massachusetts. I'm at Massasoit. What are two things funny about these places, right? So you can like go out before the show, arrive early, go to a restaurant, have a meal, talk to some locals, get some information, right? Like a quick one liner, And people, once you engage the audience like that, they're yours. They're going to laugh at all your jokes, funny or not. They're going to want to laugh because you just made comedy relatable to them. Oh, he's one of us. You know what I mean? So it's very important. It's important to become one of them because you laugh too. If you laugh, they laugh, and they're laughing at stuff that you think is funny. So that's good practice. Um, so you can also open with things about yourself. Um, talk about your life, your personal experience. I talk about my disability sometimes. I talk about my family. So I talk about stuff that's real to me. So I'm going to talk about bits, sets, and how to close real quick. A bit is just like one joke, or it can have like it can take some time to tell, but it's usually quick. It's like, hello, my name is, here's the punchline. Just one, two, boom. So you don't go in for a long path like the story joke. Where the story joke is, you got the beginning, middle, end, and the climax at some point in the story that leads to the funny, and then boom, you hit them with that. So a set is a collection of jokes. So it's like I'm trying to think. So the jokes on my disability, I call that the CMT set. It's called shock op Marie Tooth. So I'll write CMT on the card. So I know I have that, and I can go over that again and again. I generally like to title my sets, so it gives me more reference in my mind. So I'll title a set the CMT set. Oh, in closing, I'm not closing the show. I'm just saying in closing. In closing, one of the biggest things you can do is people don't realize, they tell their last joke and then they're like this, and then they're waiting to get off the stage. As a beginning comic, you don't really know how to get off stage. Usually, there will be somebody in the back flashing their cell phone at you to tell you that that's the end of your 5 minutes. But the best thing you want to do to get off stage is to actually get off stage. So you want to just say, thank you, that's my time, good night, wave, and then go. You don't want to be like, oh, I'm enjoying everybody clapping and laughing. Because if you weren't that funny, or if you were really funny, what are you going to do when the clapping ends? It's going to get real awkward and like it's uncomfortable. So you want to do your set, say thank you, that's my time, good night. You can even, come up with some kind of tagline before you go. That's my time, I'm out. Two fingers so you can work on your exit. People remember that stuff and they want to remember that stuff. So the more original you can make it you, but make it quick and get off the stage. So knowledge is something that we all have, but we all have different kinds of knowledge. Like I know about weightlifting, I know about comic books, and I know about video production. These three things make no sense together, but they are what I know about. I know that funny in quick ways, so I have to associate my knowledge and make it a quick joke. So I'm gonna let's see. But in general, the more that you know, the more that you have to be funny about. So if you know about science, if you know about religion, if you know about like what people eat as in like food cultures, the more you know, the more artillery you have for weapons as a comic. Politics is a safety net for comedy. Current events, politics, it's one of those things where it's always current. So politics are like a safety net. If you know you can do a George Bush impression, you can have a career in comedy for a while. You know, not necessarily George Bush today, but now Barack Obama. And, you know, if it's Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton that's next president or Jeb Bush, Saturday Night Live will have somebody that's going to play whoever the president is. So the more stuff you know, the more stuff you can do and practice. So the number one lessons that I learned about comedy and creating my syllabus and breaking these things down is not falling off the edge. You see that? That was close. All right. So the number one things I learned about being a comedian is to ask myself, who am I? Right? Who am I to get on a stage and tell everybody what's funny? Like I'm gonna tell a room full of people what's funny, and that's actually the part that's hard about comedy is finding out who you are. And a boxing match is like the closest thing I can tell you that comedy is related to me, because it's like, you know, you're getting up there, and if you're going to tell a joke, it's like getting punched in the face when it doesn't land. And now in boxing, you got this stool, you can go back and sit on the stool and take a minute and break, and you got coaches giving you advice and they're telling you what to do. But if you're going to take those punches and give those punches back to the audience, you have to be able to know who you are. Because if you don't know who you are as a person, you're not going to be a good comic, because you can't get on stage and do what other people do. It's going to appear fake. So I know I'm vulgar, I know I'm mean, and that's how I grew up with my family. We're always taking cheap shots at each other, we're always saying rude things, and part of it is knowing who I am. So when I build a set, I don't even think about it. What I do is I write down some jokes. I got a notebook ad in my cell phone. I let the jokes come to me. I say something and it comes across my head. I think something funny. I'm like, that's funny. I laugh to myself. Now, instead of laughing to myself because I'm a comedian, I write it down. And then it's like, yeah, I'm going to use that later. Like between yesterday and today, I wrote like 7 to 10 new jokes just because I'm on a good wave with writing lately. So watch TV shows, watch other comedians. You know, see how you relate to people. Like Don Rickles and Richard Pryor, they're both kind of, you know, they're professional and whatever, but they're like on some kind of wavelength with me, and that's who I relate to as a comedian. But I still watch other comedians instead of just those two guys, because I want to learn from everybody else. So I constantly watch stand-up comedy to see what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong, where the beats are. When you tell a joke, you need to know when to stop telling the joke and let people laugh. So that's a big thing. So watch, take notes. See when somebody does this. that they lean on the microphone, or that they just, grab their drink and sit on the stool and see what they're doing with their time and their energy. Like, why are they there? Why are they doing that? So watch stand-up comedians and take notes about their actions, not necessarily the content, but see when you're listening to the content, pay attention to what relates to you. Why do you think that's funny? One of my favorite comedians is Bernie Mac, but I can't do what Bernie Mac does. Right? I enjoy Bernie Mac. Jerry Seinfeld. I can't do what Jerry Seinfeld does. It's just not my flow. Chris Rock is kind of loud and more abrasive, and I can do that a little bit more than I can do the Seinfeld stuff. So YouTube is a big deal in comedy. YouTube is the reason why Kevin Hart blew up, and a lot of people don't realize that. Kevin Hart has been telling the same jokes from 1990 to now. If you look at his material, it's always about being a little man in a big world, or something about a woman that he's dating. And I'm not saying that he's not funny anymore, because he's funny, or he wouldn't be doing it still. So a big thing to acknowledge is YouTube is great advertisement for comedy. When you get your jokes, perform them, put them on YouTube, cut the video so it's the funniest it can be. But, the more YouTube followers you got, the bigger an audience you'll have. And if you see in the slide that says about the comedian, you'll see two different headshots. You want headshots. You want representations of yourself. Whether, and because we're comedians, we don't need professional headshots. They can be stupid. Just don't make them selfies. Make it casual, fun. If you've seen my two headshots on the slide, you'll see it's kind of a little tribute to the theater masks, comedy and tragedy, So there's interviews and introductions you can watch. There's a YouTube special with Jerry Seinfeld, Louis C.K., Ricky Gervais, and Chris Rock. If you just Google that or YouTube that, there's an HBO special that the four of them did together. I learned more about comedy watching that and watching how they talk to each other and watching their mannerisms and, what they laugh at. I learned more watching that interview than I watched then watching their stand-up comedy. Oh, okay. Introductions. When you get on stage, you got to get on stage and, this is Dwayne Denny. People clap. Woo! And you got to ride that wave and then you hit him with the local joke, like I said earlier, but you can't wait too long to get into the material. So when you're doing an introduction, you say, you, like when everyone's clapping, you kind of interrupt the clapping with your joke. You don't want the clapping to stop, then start your show, okay? Because if you let them finish clapping, they're going to just have their hands set like this and be like, now you get into a place where it's like, okay, make me laugh. I was here for you, and now you made me, stop clapping and stop cheering. Now you got to make me laugh. And you don't want to be in that place. You want to be in a place where the audience is your best friend. So your introduction, don't let them finish the clapping. Walk into it, celebrate it, embrace it. Watch how Stephen Colbert deals with clapping and Larry Wilmore. They have a great way of dealing with it. So watch these interviews and watch how these comedians are. Watch different comedians. Sinbad. He's one of my favorite comedians of all time. I can't do what Sinbad does, and people don't know who he is anymore. But that's the thing. He's an unknown comic nowadays. Steve Wright, he's like the master of being like depressed, right? There's a whole Boston thing, right? So there's a whole Boston thing where it's like I'm the depressed comic. I'm not really down with that. I have a set that's like called the depressed comic because I'm making fun of them. I'm like, screw that. I have a good life. You know, Norm Macdonald, the guy with one voice. Hey guys, he kind of has that stick, and I can't do like the stick that he has. Watch, Jon Stewart just retired, so you can't really watch that show anymore, but watch his interviews. You can watch them on YouTube, and you can watch The Daily Show with, oh, come on, someone tell me his name. What's his name? Oh, okay, I don't remember. Trevor Noah. Trevor Noah, all right? Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys. You have my back right there. All right. Trevor Noah is the new host of The Daily Show. And the reason why he got The Daily Show was because he was doing stand up comedy. If you can write for stand up comedy, you can do TV. Hosting is the easiest job in the world. I'm going to be hosting a comedy show at UMass Boston November 6th because they asked me to do it last year as a comedian, and they had no host, and they're like, can you host it? And me and another comedian I know hosted a 3-hour show. It was way more fun, but we were writing jokes on the fly because we know how to do comedy. We just went in. Every time there was an act on stage, we were making up a joke on the backside. So going to the point of making the jokes, right? Making them up. Sometimes you have to be naturally funny. You have to be naturally funny to do this, But ask yourself, how are you funny? My name is Dwayne Denny. Thank you for being a great audience. You can find out more about me as a performer at The Dwayne Denny and all social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. My website is artistsupportingartist.org. If you are talent and you want to be known and you got a skill set, or if you want to learn something new, if you want to learn to be an actor, go to info at artistsupportingartist.org. Is that a wrap?